Allen, a CSM here at Method. I'm really excited to be with you all today to talk a little bit further about what we're building with Cleo in terms of their debt reset product. This is a feature that allows users to take a look at their liabilities and create an in-depth, intelligent paydown plan to really chip away and clear out some of their debt. We have Tom here, who's a product lead at Cleo, and we're excited to talk with him. So Tom, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Colin. I'm Tom. I'm a lead product manager here at Cleo, and I've been responsible for bringing debt reset to life over the last year or so. My first day or so at the company, I was given a couple of sentences in a Notion document around an idea that we had for helping our users with their debts. And we've brought it to life over the last kind of 12 months alongside Method into Debt Reset, the product we have today, which is live to all of our subscribers, so over 1 million users for Cleo. And we are actively helping our users to manage their debts, better understand their debts, and ultimately kind of try and understand what that path to becoming debt-free looks like. So, yeah.
Amazing. I actually didn't know that. That's like a cool full circle moment.
Yeah, I know. It's been a journey.
To say the least. Okay, cool. So we can go ahead and dive into some of the questions. What we really want to do to kind of start is set the context. So why Cleo is building Debt Reset and who Cleo is. So for those who may know Cleo but not the full product, can you describe like what Cleo is and what Cleo does today?
Yeah. So in short, Cleo is an AI financial assistant. It has been for quite a long time now. So until up to, I say long time, 2016, which is a long time in AI terms. We're focused on supporting and helping millions of people, predominantly in America, to get to grips basically with their financial lives. So money is often one of the biggest, if not the biggest, sources of stress for people. And the financial system really is built to make things worse, to speak quite openly. So we find it's confusing, it's impersonal, it's out of touch, and it's intentionally quite difficult for people to understand. So Cleo is basically using AI to change that. It's a financial assistant that actually understands you. It is the interface between you and your financial lives. It helps you stay on top of your money, helps you reach your goals, and it helps you just feel more in control. And it also does that with quite a lot of sass. So it will speak quite openly to you along the way. It will roast you. It will tell you when you're doing well. It's basically that relationship between you and your money.
I love that. And kind of thinking on that holistically and being your first day and getting a couple of sentences regarding debt, like why now? Like what was the problem that you guys were looking to solve with debt when you started designing it?
Yeah. So I think it all really started around a couple of really deep core problems that we know that our users face. And they are, like, to summarize it down, and obviously it's way more complex than this, but it's really hard to manage multiple debts at the same time. So our users struggle with visibility over their debts, especially when they have loads of different debts open across loads of different accounts. So they have student loans and car loans and credit cards and personal loans, and like that all kind of creeps up on you. Like, what am I meant to pay and when and how much, and which should I prioritize first, and how do I juggle it? And that's really, really difficult. So I think there's like the actual, the actual working of paying off debt and managing it. But then the other side of it is the emotional bit. It is a significant cause of emotional stress. Like, we speak to our users all the time. It's actually the number one cause of stress. The number one reason why users want to reduce their debts and get out of their debts is to get away from the anxiety and stress that it causes them. And then finally, I kind of touched on it at the start, but debt, it just feels too complex and overwhelming for people to tackle. It feels like this kind of beast that you don't even know where to start. And so a lot of people just bury their heads in the sand instead of like deeply trying to understand it. And those are the problems that we feel like we're well positioned to actually face and try and help them with. So that's what it really stemmed from. And then, the idea kind of grew from there.
I like that. And I think that what we found with your user base specifically is, and I think it's actually not unique to them. Like, I think a lot of people in general find a lot of challenge around facing debt and the emotional ties and the things like that. Like, there are so many different complexities and layers built in with like your personhood and your debt and things like that, especially in the American market where like debt is kind of two-sided, in which we sort of spoke of this yesterday, in which you need debt in order to have opportunities for more debt, if you will, for like homes and cars and things like that. but also like it gets out of hand quite quickly. And I think it is something that can be challenging. And I also think that when we talk like bigger picture education system, like we aren't really taught how to handle things. And so I think having an approachable way to do that is really important. So I guess kind of going off of that, when we look at any user base, like what's difficult about giving users a clear picture of their liabilities and their debts?
Yeah, so I suppose the number one thing comes down to the well, maybe I'll put that a slightly different way. Like it's not hard to like anyone can take the time to go and write down everything they owe, when it's due, which bank it is, whatever that might be. It like I can do that. I have logins for different apps. Most things are online now. Most things are on my phone. It's not groundbreaking. I think what it is really time consuming, right? And it relies on me thinking about it in time. It relies on me thinking about it at the right time of the month. I've got busy lives and there are a million other things going on, especially if I'm trying to avoid thinking about it because like it has such a negative impact on my health and my stress. That's the part that's kind of different there, right? Like we could ask a user to manually tell us about their debts and to enter that information, and we could do a load of stuff off the back of it. But that really limits the proactivity of what we can do with a product like this. I think what really powers this is getting that information automatically without a user having to constantly tell us. Because that is where, again, coming back to it, that's where a lot of financial institutions rely on. Like they rely on you forgetting about it. They rely on late fees. They rely on interest. But when we understand it proactively, then you can kind of get ahead of some of those problems. You can save that money, and that money goes quite a long way to actually getting you out of that debt position to start with. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's powerful. I also think, to your point, it is out there. Like anyone can go to the credit bureau and find their own file and figure out what's on that. I think something that we do well is that real-time data, or that near real-time data, and making sure that users are keeping as aware as possible of like what their current balances are. So that considered, like I guess I have two questions. Like when we look at the credit bureau, how did you guys think about balancing data accuracy, latency, and things along those lines with data like that? And assuming, since you guys partnered with us, that wasn't going to work for you, when did you realize you'd need a data partner like us to make it possible?
Yeah, I think, how would I answer that? I think everything is a trade-off between kind of time and effort, right? Like, I think as a PM in particular, and for a company like Cleo, it's about like deeply understanding like what's the value that you can bring to the table. Like what are users coming to you for? And our users aren't coming to us for our ability to untangle the mess that is credit report data. Like they're coming to us because we support them with their financial lives. We provide advice to them. We help them manage payments. We help them kind of manage the difficult periods and understanding what they're meant to do and when. And we're better off focusing there. And then when you really think about like how complex data accuracy is or latency, like it doesn't really make too much sense for us to try and do that ourselves. What makes sense, and especially because, just like expand on that a bit, it's a constantly moving target, right? Like you don't get things to 100% and then they stay 100%. You're constantly having to chip away at that. And yeah, it comes down to kind of split focus. We could do that ourselves, not very well, and then provide a not very good product to our users that probably ends up not making anyone money, not working for anyone, or we can partner with someone like Method and do it properly. So yeah, I think that's the way we really thought about it. Is that's a skill set that we and that's a data set that we haven't got internally. And
right.
As with anything, I'm sure we could go away and try and do it. We probably just wouldn't do it as well as you guys. So it makes more sense for us to focus on where we can add value and work with you where you guys bring value.
Totally. Yeah, we appreciate that. I guess that considered, I imagine, and this was prior to my time with you all, but I imagine Method wasn't the only tool that you guys looked at. I have to believe that there were many that you guys were considering. So I guess what stood out about Method compared to those other solutions?
Yeah, I think when we were first starting with Debt Reset, like the data that underpins it is really foundational. Like that is what powers the product, and everything that comes afterwards is kind of dependent on that. So it was always going to be a really important one for us. I think I would say kind of two things stood out, and funnily enough, one more than the other. I think the first is the product just kind of worked, right? The data we had the coverage that we needed. So, and when I say coverage, I mean, like, if I have a mortgage and a student loan and a car loan, a couple of credit cards, like, how many of those were Method able to capture? How many could you see, and how many could you play back to me? And then how accurate was that data as well? So there's one thing seeing them, it's another thing playing that back to us and it being right. And I think we were really happy kind of from the start with Method on those numbers. So that, like, big tick. I think the most important thing, though, and this is kind of where it differentiated, was I think it's been a real partnership since day one. So I think from the moment we started working together with you guys, it never really felt like a sell. I think it felt more like we were co-creating the product. I think we spent a lot of time together with Method trying to understand, like, deeply understand, like, what we're doing and why we're doing it and who our customers are and what they care about. And I think that relationship and actually working through that and, like, deeply understanding the problems together meant that, like, you guys have contributed some big ideas to this product as well that we then take and go and expand. But that's a very different proposition than just, like, us buying the data from you and then doing what we will with it. Like, I would much rather have that, because in time you'll end up with a better product than something that we just kind of take off the shelf and do what we might with it. So I think that was the big selling point for us.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you. One kind of follow up to that. I know that we first met in January, almost a year ago, but looking at that, we did some cleanup, we did some changes. There was, again, some things that I think you guys have ever evolved on. What did the build look like from the first prototype, to launch?
Yeah, so I think the build from the first prototype was really, like, when we worked with you guys, we knew that coverage and accuracy, as I said before, like, those were the two cool things for us. And we were able to do that on a small scale manually with you guys. The prototype, the MVP, what was super important for us was, like, can we do that? Can we automate that? Can we do that at scale? Can we understand that at scale? And that's what the first version of this really looked like. It looked like a really basic tool that said, hey, sign up for this. We're going to do some interesting stuff in debt management. We found some really warm users who are really engaged and wanted to help, and they want to be involved with this sort of stuff. And we essentially said, we're going to play back your debts to you in a nice user experience in a nice format. And we're going to see if it's accurate, and we're going to see if it works. And that's not really the most exciting product in the world. But I think the reason that this worked and why we were able to kind of move from that prototype into where we're at now is the core problems that we were solving were real, and they, like, speak to users, and it is something that engages people, and it's something that people want to fix, right? So the prototype was really, like, quite basic, and it just worked functionally, and it didn't have many bells and whistles. But what it did do is it started to tell our users that, hey, this is the space we're going to explore, and these are problems we're trying to solve, and selling that, like, idea of what this product was going to be really resonated with people from the start, which was awesome.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you and I have the context to this, but we did a lot of cleanup, if you will, in terms of making sure that the data that we were surfacing was the most relevant to users. So a lot of the work that we did in the spring was pushing toward launch and making sure that we had enough users qualified for the happy path, that it would be a relevant product to a large sum of your users. So when we were going through that and ensuring that they had applicable debts, how did you decide what information or which debts to surface to users versus which to abstract away or to hold off on?
Yeah, I suppose that the way we kind of thought about it is, like, I suppose not all debts are, like, made equally, right? Like, and it's a really complex area that I think you or us as people who are building these products, it's really easy, if you're not careful, to shift, like, your internal understanding of debts and liabilities and interest. And, like, that's not the way people engage with it. That's not the way people live their lives. I think, like, the way we try to do it is to try and really deeply understand about, well, like, how do people see their debt in their lives? What debt do they see together? Like, if I think about it, I really don't see my mortgage in the same way as I see my credit card bill. like they are technically two debts, right? They're two liabilities. They're two things on my credit report, but they're so fundamentally different in my life. And like, even then, you could go from like a car loan to a debt, and we'll speak to users all the time, to a credit card, sorry. We'll speak to users all the time, and we'll say, we're talking about debts and we're talking about like how they feel about different types of them. And then they'll say something like, yeah, and then I've got my car bill. I say, oh, so is that like your car loan? And they're like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. Yeah. I didn't think that my car was a loan. I didn't think it was a debt because it's my car. And so the way we've built the product is try and be aware of those things. Try not to scare people as well, right? If you take a total debt number and it's got my mortgage included in it, shit, that looks scary. Like that's a big scary number. And that's not really representative of my actual debt. So like, I suppose what we've been trying to do is bridge that in a way that feels simple, clear, and like easy for anyone to understand. Because I think the most important thing with a product like this is it feels approachable. And like come back to that core problem we're trying to solve of it's complex and feels mysterious and people just shy away from it. Like that's what we're trying to remove from this, is just make it feel simple, make it the language really easy, really obvious. So yeah, I think to answer your question, don't show mortgages alongside total debt number. That's a big one. Show that separately, but also try and like have the high level and then break that down a little bit more. So yeah, that's how we approached it.
I also think that ties back to like the emotion of debt and the way that people handle like variable debt. For example, if I had extra cash flow, I wouldn't say, oh, I should pay. I live in New York City, I don't have a car, but I wouldn't, if I had a $20,000 car loan, I wouldn't be like, oh, it would change my life if it was $18,000 versus $20,000. Versus if I had a credit card bill, it would make sense to pay a little extra there. Like I think when you are talking about day-to-day debt, it is interpreted differently also on like an emotional scale. Like I don't think anyone is, I won't speak so broadly, but I think a $10,000 credit card bill versus a $10,000 like car loan feels very different. And I think one thing that Cleo does really well is meeting people where they're at with that in terms of the product. So like when you open the product where it hides the number and it allows people to have a moment to say like, okay, I'm ready to see this. And you allow like a very intentional click of like, okay, breathe. And it even says, breathe, take a look, you can click it and you can see your number. And I think meeting users where they're at with little product nuances like that makes it a standout app that doesn't just like say, by the way, your credit score's 550, you have $500,000 in loans, best of luck. Like it does allow for a moment of breathing to be able to tackle it.
Yeah, and I think that's something that Cleo is we're kind of known for, right? Is the, as I said before, we've got quite a sassy tone in the app as well, and it's quite real. And there are sometimes we'll like roast you on your spending, and that can be quite funny. And like it's confronting, but it's done in a funny way.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one that we made a really conscious decision from the start that we wouldn't really use that tone of voice with debt because
interesting. I didn't know
it's just not funny, right?
Yeah.
What is funny is I've overspent in McDonald's, or like I'm spending too much on Uber, or whatever that is, and like, oh yeah, my eating out habits a bit out of hand. Like, what's not funny is I'm saddled with medical debt that I can't repay, and like that's impacting my life. So yeah, you're right. Like it is something that you have to be, and that all comes back to really understanding the users on as deep a level as possible and just keep asking questions. So yeah, we've been very intentional with the way we've done that. And like one other thing which we're trying to understand how to add in there as well, which is like friends and family debt. And you'll never get that on a credit report. But so many of our users tell us all the time that like they would rather take a tank to their credit score than ruin their relationship with their sister because like they didn't pay their sister back, right? Yeah. And it's super, super interesting. You never think about that, but I think this is where the two things come together to build a product that like it's a very nuanced area to try and solve.
It really is. And I think the way that you guys are approaching it with that personhood, if you will, is unique. And I think is something that attracts users to Cleo.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. In terms of, you kind of started answering this, but more from like the quantitative perspective, but talking about Cleo as an already successful product, you guys have 1 million users. You started exposing Method to it, which is great, or to them, excuse me, which is great, but they were already there. So can you talk a little bit more about how you guys built Method and liability data on top of an already successful subscription plan and tiers?
Yeah, I think, I suppose the way that we look at that is, two main things really, and that is, are we incrementally making the product better that more people want to subscribe and pay for this thing? And once they have subscribed and paid for this thing, or they're already subscribing and paying, they want to keep subscribing and paying for longer because they get access to these tools. And I think that's really the way that we've tried to think about it from the start, which is, can we drive more people into the app and more people into paid tiers? And can we keep them there? And once they've come into the app, can we get people to adopt it and kind of get the value from it? So it's, it's really a incremental to the existing subscription that we provide, where there's loads of other functionality that sits and talks to other parts of our users' lives, like savings and budgeting and helping them understand their money more broadly. It all kind of fits into that wider proposition. So yeah, it's not, for us, it's never been about, this is a brand new business line.
Right.
There's a new subscription tier for this and everything's different. It's more about how do you provide more value to your existing users so that Cleo remains a more important part of their lives for a longer time, and they're willing to keep coming back.
Yeah. I guess that kind of leads into my next question. You kind of already answered it, but about when we talk about this now being live with users, a handful of things that I'm curious about around value. One, the value that your end users are seeing, what part of this product is resonating with users, and also how has this kind of changed or impacted how you think or how your users seem to think about subscription value at Cleo?
Yeah, good question. I think it's funny, you go into building something like this with ideas of where the value is, and then you're often wrong, or you're often sometimes it goes the wrong way and no one finds any value in any of it, and that's kind of annoying.
That's just
or in this case, it's actually been really nice, and that there's been so just to kind of break it down a bit. I know we talked about it at the start, but Debt Reset is a debt dashboard that shows you all your debts in one place and that kind of total amount. We also then have what we call our personalized paydown plan, and that is where we're trying to help you understand, where do I have the biggest bang for my buck, right? If I have some extra money that I can put towards overpayments, where has the biggest impact? Is it this car loan, or should I overpay on this credit card, or what does that mean? And we'd always thought that part of it was going to be what was really different here. That's where the real impact came from. And don't get me wrong, there is impact there. But I think we're kind of shocked at just how much impact there is in just actually seeing everything in one place. And it's such a fundamental,
right.
Feels very basic. It was the first iteration of this tool, but it doesn't really exist out there. The ability to actually just look at all my debts in one place and understand what the total picture looks like without having to jump around a million different apps and a million different logins. Just show it to me in one place. There's a ton of value in that. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that, personally speaking, I've started using Cleo as my own budgeting. And I think it's really helpful to be able to see everything, monitor, have an awareness. Like that Cleo gives you the option to choose a pay down strategy, so you feel involved in it as well. It's less of a, hey, do this. It's a little bit more of this is what we think. Why don't you put your own input, and getting a little bit of user buy-in, the ability to edit it and make sure that it's something that fits. So I guess for added context, the ability to put in the amount that you make on on a monthly basis. It then calculates what your monthly payments should be and says, okay, if you make X over the month, and we therefore deduce that you can afford X, your minimum payments are X. This is your plan, and this is what you should pay extra toward. And then this, if you follow our plan, is your expected payoff date. And so putting that in very clear terms of whoa, I didn't know I could be debt free in a year, is really significant when people aren't even looking at that in the first place. They don't know. So we do find it really unique and helpful in that way.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we've, in our research, what do people really care about here? And they care about it. We always thought people would care more about interest saved, but people care about time saved. They care about how long do I have this burden hanging over me for, and if I make this change, how much faster is this gone? And so, that the pay down plan and the strategy that we help users choose between them. That's a big part of it. Yeah. Also, sorry, this same guy has walked past me 100 times.
He's pacing.
Trying to give him the eyes. say.
Don't worry now. Don't worry, he's fine. Okay, we'll wrap it up shortly. I have two final questions in terms of just like lessons learned. What's one thing that you would do differently if you were to build this again?
Yeah, good question. I think any product manager that doesn't answer that question with loads of things is lying to you. I think that's part of the process, though. So I think there's a few things we do differently from the start. I think one of them I've just kind of talked about is we probably put too much emphasis on that plan side of it from the beginning and the importance of that, but actually starting from building blocks and like really just spending maybe a little bit more time on that dashboard and just the real basics. I think we'd have done that slightly differently. But I think, to be honest, a lot of this is part of the process. It's not about getting everything right first time. It's about understanding what the really, really, really important foundations are and getting those right, or at least spending as much time as you can on them. And then figuring everything else out as quickly as you can along the way. And for us, those foundations were like the user problem we were trying to solve. And those problems that our users had and how they felt about debts and the kind of emotional state. The actual product itself, we got tons of things wrong. Like our onboarding funnel was horrible for a little bit. People were getting stuck. People couldn't get in. We weren't showing it to the right people. All that stuff, like all the fun stuff. You kind of have your heart in your mouth for a minute and say, why is no one using this product? Everyone hates it. And then you realize that it's not turned on. Like that sort of thing. Right. I think you'd always go back and do slightly differently. But I think what was important about this one is we got the fundamentals right. We got the core customer value proposition right. And we also understood how that tied into the business goals from the beginning. And I think that just provided so much clarity to make those mistakes quickly along the way, but know that like the metrics are still moving in the right direction for everyone. And yeah, that's the main thing.
Right. And I think in order for any product to be successful, like being flexible in iteration is really important. Like it's a lot of failing forward when building things.
Yeah, absolutely. And not being afraid to take the jump as well. Just try it. Like get it in front of someone. As long as you're not, obviously with stuff like this, you gotta be careful you're not harming people, right? You've got to be careful you're not putting the wrong information out there and being a cowboy about it. But as long as you're thinking about it deeply and that's always a tick before you check anything out there, get it out there, see what happens. You'll be wrong. You'll always be wrong first time. Yeah. But better to be wrong and change it and be right within a week than spend months trying to get it right first time. Yeah,
definitely. Okay, final question. And I know these are conversations that you and I have had, so feel free to hold them if it's not anything that you guys are wanting to share broadly. But the question is, what's next for Debt Reset? Where are you guys going and where do you see Method fitting into that?
Yeah, there's probably things I can and can't answer there. Right. But what I would say is fundamentally the last year has been about scoping this idea, understanding if we should do it or not. And once we made the decision to go for it, it was about building that MVP, testing it, iterating it, getting into a place where we were happy. Then it was about launching it and getting it in front of people and understanding about that at scale. And that's exactly what we've done. And we're now on a really stable platform of the product. I suppose now it's about taking it to the next level. And one of the things that we've always wanted to do, but maybe hasn't been as apparent because it's always, you never start with the really complex stuff, but like really deeply integrating this into the wider Cleo ecosystem and the other products and features and functionality that we offer in the app. We do that to an extent, but there's always more you can do there when you're looking at like users' wider financial lives. So that's definitely an area we'll explore over the coming year. That and kind of like how do we expand the core value that we're offering to users with this. So we start at the basics. There's a long way to go. There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of niches within debt as well. Right? Like it's not as someone who is really financially comfortable, their goals will be some really, really different to someone who's living paycheck to paycheck and just trying to survive. And it's about understanding that kind of spectrum of users and understanding where you can make the most impact in the shortest amount of time. So, yeah, bit of a cop out answer there, but
we'll take it.
Evolving the product. Yeah.
I appreciate that, Tom. That's actually all I have. So really, really appreciate it. It's been such a pleasure working with you.
Awesome.
And this working.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Great. Me and my friend who are walking across.
I have to know what call he's on. Just a lot of pacing.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, happy to help.